Speaker.
I call Alistair Scott.
Mr Speaker, it gives me pleasure to speak to the Taxation, Kiwisaver, Homestart and Remedial Matters Bill. And I'm encouraged to hear from across the House general support for this bill, despite the comments made from the opposition, despite the criticism, the moaning, the whinging and the whining, and yet they are willing to support it. I guess they're supporting it, I guess they're saying it's tentatively positive, would be their words. I guess you're tentatively positively supporting this bill at this stage. So, which is a good start, because, Mr Speaker, the environment for housing could not be better. There is a building boom on right now in Auckland, right across the country. 23,000 new housing consents have been issued. We've had descriptions of the Hanura electorate where you can drive endlessly to see new sites, new building sites, new subdivisions opened up, including Hanura and Botany as examples today, sir. This bill is eligible to more than 90,000 Kiwis. 90,000 lower and middle income Kiwis will have access to doubling the support as first home buyers. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing, sir, because it enables young Kiwis, first home buyers, a greater chance of getting into their homes. Now look, this is not a silver bullet. There is no silver bullet, as Mr Cosgrove was suggesting. This is part of a considered package of economic development which drives our economy, which has driven our interest rates to as low as they've ever been, giving first home buyers an even greater chance to access their first home. Interest rates are the most important indicator, or the most important cost to a first home buyer's budget, sir. And we know that, as been said earlier, 11% 6 years ago, half that rate today. Mr Speaker, I heard, while general support, I also heard a lot of criticism in general around the policies of this government. And as we know, we've talked about demand and we've talked about supply, but can I just reiterate that the supply of housing has been increased dramatically. These special housing areas will make a difference. They are making a difference, and they'll continue to make a difference. As we know, you can't get consent through an RMA overnight to build a house, which is a completely different subject, of course, but that leads us on to RMA reform, which is so essential to getting these houses built in a timely manner. Mr Speaker, it was a little bit concerning the Labor Party's option of solving the housing problem, which was to build their own. The party was going to, a Labor government would build houses. That's their solution, their silver bullet. I'm not sure where they'd build them, but I assume in Auckland. I'm not sure who they'd buy the land off, but I assume the owner of the property would see them coming, because that's what happens when a government agency comes in with their chequebook. And I would assume that they would do their best to pick the best place, the most appropriate place for the people of Auckland to live in. That is just totally patronising. It is none of the government's business to tell the population where they should build their homes and where they should live. Sir, building houses under the design of Mr Grant Robertson would be frightening, sir. I mean, I'm not sure what he'd have in his house, but it would be different to mine. Then we had the suggestions, or the solutions, the silver bullets, if you like, from the Greens. Now, they talked about 5 points, and I only managed to write down 4 because I was sort of giggling in my shoes at their suggestions of a capital gains tax for a start. Well, a capital gains tax, sir, is exactly what you don't want when you try to solve a housing problem, particularly if I'm assuming that a household would be exempt from capital gain. So if you've got a capital gains tax, sir, and you exempt your house or a home, it drives people to obviously jump through the loophole and buy the biggest, the flashiest, the most expensive home that they can possibly afford. That simply drives the price up of homes. And that's what will happen given the proposal of a capital gains tax with a household as an exemption. Then the second point raised was restricting foreigners. Well, we've heard this before, registrations of foreigners. They're coming in with their money, and we don't want their money, of course, because money from offshore is a bad thing. Well, that's unfortunately very naive an assertion coming from the Greens, because we know that New Zealand as a country is short of capital. We are screaming out for capital. We are trying to attract capital to our regions. So for one, let alone driving capital away from New Zealand, it particularly drives capital away from our regions, which is exactly where we would like some investment to be made by foreigners. Even those Asian foreigners, even those foreigners that you would like to put, sorry sir, as the opposition would like to put on a register. And what happens, sir, is this register of owners, of foreign owners, is only going to turn them away. It's only going to encourage them to invest elsewhere. It's only going to encourage them to go to Australia. Do not want decent investment money. So what also happens is that...
Can the member take a seat?
Sorry.
I encourage the member Tracy Martin to take a breath. Interjections are supposed to be rare, reasonable and witty, if possible, not a constant barrage. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's impossible for her.
Mr. Speaker, I was talking about this registration of foreign owners, which is only going to turn capital away from New Zealand and from our regions. And of course, when you create rules, you also create loopholes. And that register would only create loopholes. So when a foreigner comes in to buy something that I might own, whether it be some shares in Chorus, and I go and choose to buy a home in Auckland, would I be registered on the opposition's register? Such as the loopholes that you suggest and people would take advantage of. The fourth silver bullet, if you like, from the Greens.
Point of order, Stuart Nash.
I mean, I hear what you say about Tracy Martin, but Mr. Speaker, the member has spoken for about, I don't know, 6 minutes on things that are completely unrelated to this bill whatsoever. So I think what Tracy Martin was doing was highlighting the fact that she wants to know what is actually in this bill and how it's going to benefit Kiwis.
Point of order, Jami-Lee Ross.
Mr. Speaker, the debate so far has been very wide-ranging on housing. This deals specifically with housing solutions. I think that's why the member has been focusing on housing.
I thank the members. I take the points. I will continue to listen closely. I do acknowledge that the debate that I've heard so far has been wide-ranging from both sides. Please continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was talking about the Greens' proposal, which was mentioned in this debate, regarding the regional development project of targeting regions to build houses in. Well, how are you going to... you build houses and who's going to be going there? You've got to create jobs, you've got to invest capital in the regions. You can't just build houses where a Labor policy might or a Green policy might choose to centrally control and dictate. You've got to leave it to the market to decide. So what this bill does, sir, is, coming back to the bill, this bill allows first home buyers to choose where they buy their home, where they invest. They can come to Masterton or they can go to Wellington or to Auckland, sir. So this bill enables, and talking about demand, does increase the demand for houses. That is absolutely right. And it does that, but only in a very narrow section of the buyer market, and that is the first home buyer. And combined with the LVR, the loan-to-value ratios, which exempt new homes, this is one of, there's no silver bullets, this is one of many policies which contribute to new and young families getting into their first home. Thank you.
I call